A wonderful WrestleMania Wednesday to all of you. I am Steve with On the Ring Apron, subsidiary of Mania Club. We're going to be busting out the different jerseys throughout this week, so an opportunity for us to be able to not only talk about WrestleMania over many different events that we're going to be presenting this week as part of our special coverage for this weekend, but also getting an opportunity to sport the new Mania Club jerseys, the ones we've been going through. And then we're going to debut our new ones on Sunday when we attend WrestleMania itself. We're going to keep this one brief because we actually have a second show immediately following this one. It's going to be our first of what will be 3 Top Rope spoiler episodes this week. We're going to begin with NXT Stand and Deliver, scheduled for noon on Saturday, directly before WrestleMania Night 1. First, let's make sure we get the bills paid here. Our episode tonight is brought to you by Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings. Wingstop, give us free stuff. We always appreciate the sponsorship as well as the shout-outs. So thank you guys so much for, once again, helping us out to continue to get to do what we do as we wrap up year 4 of On the Ring Apron. I couldn't believe that when we started this, and literally our first episode was the very first empty arena Smackdown going back into 2020. Who would have believed that we'd still be standing and now just sitting about a day and a half away from heading to Philadelphia for all 3 events. Look for us at Stand and Deliver because we're actually going to be ramp side on the, I guess it would be the left side if you are watching it on the show. So we're going to have an opportunity to get ourselves in there, look for the Mania Club jerseys, as well as the screaming Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes fans. I'll be simping for Roxy and Lyra myself, but it is what it is. But either way, I told you we'd keep this relatively brief before we get to our Top Rope spoilers, which is officially our selection show. If you haven't had an opportunity, make sure you go back to look at our YouTube channel. We have Pour the Tea, a pair of episodes just premiered earlier today on YouTube. There's a replay available on TikTok as well for you to be able to watch both Kia and Alyssa discuss not only what will end up being Alyssa's very first trip to Philadelphia, and that is, of course, Kia's second hometown. We've done shows from there before, but also giving our previews to what we think could potentially happen, as well as a few fun scenarios for Night 1 and Night 2, especially when it comes to the main events. But let's go ahead and move to the action. Right now, we discussed in a previous episode, for anyone who's ever followed my show here, we take the replica championship belts and we essentially switch the plates on them. We're blessed to get early access to a lot of these plates pretty soon after the competitors themselves ultimately get them. So we have the first opportunity to be able to see them. And even though there's been nothing new over the last couple of weeks, we did have a pair of championship titles, in which case we were still waiting on a plate or plates, and now we finally have them. We did go ahead and show them off in a post about a week ago on Instagram, but now we have an opportunity to be able to put them on here so that way our entire collection is ready to go because, hey, you know it's Mania season and you know this is the perfect time for a lot of title changes. But let's go ahead and talk about the first one. It moves us into NXT for this upcoming Saturday, and it's for the NXT Tag Team Championships, which currently we have right here in our possession. As you are aware, the previous champions ultimately ended up falling to the team of Baron Corbin and Bron Breakker. They have defended the championships a couple of times after successfully winning the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. They then went on to defeat Tony D'Angelo and Stax Lorenzo to win the championships and have held them since. They are scheduled to defend them this upcoming Saturday at Stand and Deliver against the winners of the Triaxle tournament, which ended up being Axiom and Nathan Frazier, who are going to get their 3rd attempt at the championship. So, right now, because of the fact that the titles came off, we did switch them to the generic plates while we were waiting, but now we do have the available plates in question here, so let's go ahead and take those out of their box here. The Bron Breakker plates we've seen before because he was the NXT champion about a year and a half ago. So his plates are ones that we've seen before here on our show. And as you can see, nothing's really changed on those. However, the Baron Corbin plate now makes its official debut. This is actually Baron's first championship in almost 5 years. So it's been a little bit since Corbin's held gold. He made even mention of that as he was trying to win the tournament to get the title shot, but debuting his new one with the Burn the Ships logo in the middle. So we'll go ahead and display those on our title belt. And as always, for anyone who has followed along, you know that I always pose general questions. And really, when it comes to this week, it's relatively easy. It's WrestleMania week. If you are any level of wrestling fan, especially within WWE, this is the week of all weeks. You have, of course, not just WrestleMania-based events and WWE and NXT-based events. You also, of course, have other smaller independent groups that are coming in to have matches throughout the weekend. I'm hoping that we might be able to find time to swing over to watch Izzy Mania have a match before we go to Stand and Deliver on Saturday. I don't know if our flight will get in soon enough to make it, but we're certainly going to try if things were to work out in our favor. Of course, you've got things like Wale Mania, which is always very popular. This year you're debuting WWE World, which is essentially the new version of Access, which was always the meet and greet locations. Another Undertaker's One Dead Man show. So there's a lot going on, as you can imagine, in Philadelphia this weekend. Not surprising, of course. But what I'm curious to find out, specifically staying in the realm of NXT, we don't want the show itself to get overshadowed. For years, we've gone to WrestleMania. This will be Mining Kia's, what is it, on 12th? Okay, something like that. I know we've been to every one of them since 27, except for 28 and, of course, 36. And we did have tickets for 36. I still have the ticket to the Mania that never was. But, so we're going to that. For Alyssa, it will be her third. She joined us for the first time at 38, and now, of course, 39 and 40. She has never known a day as being a part of On the Ring Apron, in which Roman Reigns has not been the undisputed Universal Champion, and she hopes that will not be coming to an end this upcoming Sunday. But, of course, still remains to be seen, and she has already publicly said on Pour the Tea that they will have to put her in a bucket and carry her out of there. Roman himself will have to do it if it doesn't end up working out. But staying in the conversation, though, of NXT, these are the guys that, look at WrestleMania and ultimately hope to be the guy that is Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, The Rock, main eventing WrestleMania at some point in the very near future. Who, in your opinion, is the guy that is currently a full-time NXTer that you feel is going to be the first one to main event a WrestleMania? You're looking at people like Bron Breakker, you're looking at Carmelo Hayes, Lyra or Roxanne, possibly within the women's division, Tony D'Angelo. There's a number of names that are out there. Ilya Dragunov, of course, the current NXT champion. So I'm curious to get your thoughts from the crowd. Throw it in the comments below. Throw it on our chat to the side. So that way you can be able to make your voice heard. And speaking of making your voice heard, make sure that tomorrow you're going to see our picks options for the OTRAs to ultimately come out. It's on the community page on YouTube where you can be able to get an opportunity to be able to place your votes. The OTRA is currently tied with Alyssa with just the one weekend left to go here in Season 4. So still a chance for the OTRAs to take it all for this upcoming year. And, of course, WrestleMania also starts Season 5. But as we can see, the plates are now on the NXT Tag Team Championships. Bron Breakker over on that side, Baron Corbin on this side. So this will give everybody an opportunity to be able to spot these and be looking for them, looking for this particular belt at least later on this evening, as, of course, we will be having Top Rope spoilers for Stand and Deliver. Our WrestleMania Part 1 and Part 2 will both be debuting tomorrow night. So that officially brings an end to the NXT Tag Team Titles one. And then we have one more to run with here, and that moves us into, of course, WrestleMania. A number of fantastic matches. This may arguably be the most stacked card that WrestleMania has had in probably shoot, I'd argue at least the last 10 years. You may have to go back to 30. You could maybe argue 34, 35 maybe, in terms of, just the overall talent level that is sitting on this particular card. But it just seems like every match, with maybe the lone exception of maybe one or two, every match has had a brilliant storyline write-up. The storyline has been, writing has been unmatched in what I've seen since the Attitude Era. So congratulations to H, to Shawn Michaels, to all the teams that are doing all of the writing backstage. We've got people like Bobby Roode that are now back there doing storyline writing. Of course, the guy who played Kurt Angle's son. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Thank you. Jason Jordan has been writing backstage for a while there as well, and usually he does most of the women's matches. So a lot of the matches you saw, like Rhea and Charlotte from last year, was written by Jason Jordan. So fantastic work on both their sides. But one match that quietly is going to go under the radar because of, the high-level championship matches that are on the women's division. Of course, you've got Rhea and Becky for the women's world title. Rhea's held the championship since it was created. And then you've got Io and Bayley on Sunday for the WWE Women's Championship over on Smackdown. That was temporarily held by Bianca, ultimately cashed in on and won by Io. But now the now former founder of Damage Control getting her shot. But then you also have other members of Damage Control that are also getting matches as well. The current women's tag team champions, the Kabuki Warriors, will also be teaming with Dakota Kai, returning from her injury from the last year, and they'll be battling the what they're calling the Ebony Dream Team of Naomi, Bianca Belair, and Jade Cargill, making her WrestleMania debut. Bianca, of course, running an undefeated streak into WrestleMania. She's a perfect 4-0 in every match that was not a battle royal. So since joining the main roster, she has retained a pretty good run, but this will be the first time that Bianca Belair is going to compete at WrestleMania in a non-championship match. So a little unfortunate that they couldn't put the women's tag titles on the line, but I do anticipate this is going to be something that's going to be coming up very soon, maybe even as early as the Raw after. But as mentioned, the Kabuki Warriors of Damage Control are the current tag team champions. We put one plate on our replica title previously in our last episode. That was Asuka's. We've seen hers many, many times over the years, winning multiple championships, both the tag titles as well as the respective Raw and SmackDown women's championships as well. But we were missing Kairi Sane's. But recently we were able to finally get our hands on hers, and we do have that finally on our plate to be able to exchange it, no pun intended. Just simply the Kairi Sane name at the bottom with the Kairi Sane wheel logo that's placed into the center. So this will be one that has finally debuted. Of course, Kairi and Asuka both holding the championships during the pandemic period before Kairi ultimately left the company, but they were never given their own set of plates. Let me make sure I'm switching out the right one here. So Kairi never got an opportunity to be able to have her own. They did show a post on one of their social medias that Kabuki Warrior plates were made, and I can post those from a couple of years back, but they never ultimately debuted onto the championship belt. Ultimately, of course, Kairi would leave the company to return back to home of Japan once she had the opportunity to do so when the COVID ban was lifted. The titles would end up going over to Bayley and Sasha Banks, and the ultimate opportunity for the Kabuki Warriors to have their own sets of plates on the championship was never able to be seen up until now. And I'm really happy that they gave Kairi and Asuka opportunities to be able to have their own singular plates versus just making Kabuki Warrior plates. And I wouldn't necessarily be against the idea, but I am glad because it does give you the opportunity not just for them to each show their own individuality on their plates, but it also lets you know that there could be potential future plans for Kairi to win potentially other championships in the future. We all know she's capable, a 2-time NXT Women's Champion, winner of a Mae Young Classic, so it definitely is definitely a person who has the competitive spirit, and of course Triple H is backing, no doubt, liked by Shawn Michaels as well, to potentially be able to win more championships. But with that, we have put Kairi's plate on ours, so once again, we show Asuka's plate over here on this side, trying to not pick up that light glare. Not fantastic. But it's right there, and then we spin it around, and there is Kairi's plates over here on our left one, completing the Kabuki Warrior Women's Tag Team Championships. They will not be getting defended at WrestleMania. In fact, they will be the only championship on the main roster that will not be defended at the event, so I fully anticipate that the women's tag team titles are going to likely be defended either on Raw or on SmackDown to give you a potential championship match on the main roster for the Raw after Mania, always one of the most ruckus events of the evening, and you can imagine that a Philadelphia crowd is going to absolutely bring it. But with that, that does bring the end to our very abbreviated plate exchange. We promised you we'd get the plates on here and wanted to wait until we got closer to Mania to make sure that our entire collection was up to date. And of course, as is the case with most years, WrestleMania typically always brings a number of championship title changes and a lot of new opportunities for some new plates to come in, maybe even some old ones, to get a chance to be back on new championship belts. We made mention, I think this is episode like 56 or 57 of Plate Exchange since we got started. Roman Reigns officially got his plates on the Universal Championship in episode 8. And that was a while ago. So we'll, episode 57, 58, whatever the next one is that going to finally be the one where we get to talk about Roman dropping a championship and putting on the Cody Rhodes plates that we bought and got a year ago that still have not found their way onto a championship belt? Or is it finally time? Of course, also, we're going to be on the lookout at the store for the new WWE Speed Championship, which, of course, is being competed on X, and hopefully a new belt to add to our collection here very soon. But either way, let me go ahead and wrap things up because it's late in the evening, and we've still got 3 more shows, 1 tonight, 2 tomorrow. But like I said, it's Mania season. If you don't get excited now, then maybe you're not watching the right thing. Go watch some baseball or some hockey or something. But either way, this is Steve with On the Ring Apron. Ladies will be joining me here in a few minutes for Top Rope Spoilers. We're going to discuss Stand and Deliver tonight, and then both nights of WrestleMania debuting tomorrow. So keep it real until then. The plates are set. Now let's set the table.